today we're going to be talking about what an intellectual property lawyer does. Welcome to my channel. I'm Tina. I'm a corporate lawyer in the Philippines. So recently I came out with a video on what exactly I do as a corporate lawyer, and since that video I've received quite a few questions on what other law specializations there are, because obviously corporate law is just one of the many specializations that you guys can get into once you are lawyers. I understand though that corporate law is not for everyone, and that is precisely why you guys are curious to know the other types of law that you could get into. So on my channel I'm going to be doing different episodes on the types of law specializations that exist. I could either just be talking to you about it, like one-on-one as we are doing now, and in other episodes I will have my friends from those specific fields of law speaking to you guys on my channel, in my video, and telling you what being in that field of law is like. It may be a bit of a challenge getting them on here on my channel because of the COVID-19 situation, as I'm sure you guys are aware, but hopefully when this whole thing blows over, fingers crossed, they can come on here. So this topic of different law specializations is going to be something like a series or episodes on my channel. The first one was about being a corporate lawyer, and today we're going to be talking about what an intellectual property lawyer does. So what exactly does an intellectual property lawyer do? To understand what an intellectual property lawyer does, then it's important to understand what intellectual property is in the first place. Intellectual property in its most basic sense refers to creations of the mind, as in utak, such as number 1, inventions, number 2, literary and artistic works, number 3, designs, and number 4, symbols, names, and images used in commerce. The concept underlying intellectual property or IP is that certain products of the human intellect, meaning intangibles, should be afforded the same protective rights which apply to physical tangible property. Intellectual property, or we'll refer to it as IP from now on, can consist of patents, trade secrets, copyrights, franchises, and trademarks. I won't go in depth about what each of those are here, because if I do, then this video would be 40 minutes long. In the very simplest of terms, patents refer to inventions. For example, an iPhone, a 3D printer, a bionic eye, Bluetooth, Dropbox, Facebook. The inventor or the creator with the patent has the right to choose who can use, sell, or even make something similar during the 20-year validity period of the patent. Copyright, on the other hand, refers to literary or artistic works like books, movies, paintings, computer programs, and recordings of performances. Under copyright laws, the owner of the original work is entitled to economic and moral rights. Economic rights enable the creator to receive profits should his works be distributed by third parties. Moral rights, on the other hand, protect the connection between a creator and his work. Once the owner receives the rights to his or her work, then unauthorized third parties are prevented from distributing or selling the works, especially for trade purposes. Lastly, trademarks refer to signs or designs which distinguish the products or services of one trader from the products or services of another trader. So the easiest example would be logos. When an owner registers his or her or its trademark, then the owner of the trademark would have the exclusive rights to make use of that mark. Also, it would ensure that nobody else could use the same or even a similar mark for products or services of a similar nature. So where does the law come in here? Philippine law and many jurisdictions around the world protect your IP from unauthorized use by others. When others use your protected IP without authorization, then that is considered IP infringement. The primary purpose of IP law is to encourage creators to create. The laws on intellectual property exist to provide incentives or rewards to authors and inventors to produce works which would benefit the public by regulating the public's use of those works in order to ensure that these authors and inventors are compensated for their efforts. So you see, IP law gives creators an economic incentive for their creation because it allows creators to profit from the information and the intellectual goods that they create. The Philippines adheres to several international agreements on IP, including the Paris Convention for the Protection of Industrial Property Rights, the Berne Convention for the Protection of Literary and Artistic Works, the Patent Cooperation Treaty, the TRIPS Agreement, and the WIPO Copyright Treaty. This means that IP, such as copyrights, patents, trademarks, utility models, and industrial designs are protected in the Philippines. The governing law in the Philippines is Republic Act No. 8293, otherwise known as the Intellectual Property Code of the Philippines. So now that you guys understand what IP is, let's go to what an intellectual property lawyer does exactly? So an intellectual property lawyer simply means a lawyer who handles IP matters. Those matters include trademarks, trade names, patents, utility models, industrial designs, copyright, licensing, technology transfer agreements, franchise agreements, intellectual property litigation, and intellectual property enforcement. Basically, if you're an IP lawyer, you deal with all matters related to the licensing and the franchising of your client's IP assets, including the filing, registration, and protection of your patent, trademark, industrial design, etc. You file applications, prosecute, maintain, and register patents, trademarks, industrial designs, and utility models before the Philippine Intellectual Property Office, or IPO. You do copyright deposit and protection. You register food, cosmetics, and drugs with the Food and Drugs Administration, or the FDA. You legally represent your client in opposition and cancellation actions, in patent cases, trademark cases, copyright infringement cases, unfair competition, and other violations of the Intellectual Property Code which may be filed by or against your client. You register technology transfer agreements, product and service licensing agreements. You enforce intellectual property rights, including availing of remedies like injunction. You apply before the Intellectual Property Office, or the IPO, for registration of your client's copyright or trademark, etc., whatever IP they want to register. You protect the intellectual property rights of your client against infringers and counterfeiters. You do IP litigation, for example, filing infringement cases and representing your client before the IPO, the Regional Trial Court, or the RTC, the Court of Appeals, or the CA, and the Supreme Court. You file cease and desist proceedings against infringers. So we come to the next question. As an intellectual property lawyer, what would your Bible be? As an intellectual property lawyer, your Bible would be Republic Act number 8293, otherwise known as the Intellectual Property Code of the Philippines, or simply the IP Code. This was signed into law in June 1997 and took effect in January 1998. This was subsequently amended by RA 10372. The Philippines is also party to many international agreements and treaties on IP, including the Convention establishing the World Intellectual Property Organization, or the WIPO, the Paris Convention for the Protection of Individual Property, the Budapest Treaty on the International Recognition of the Deposit of Microorganisms for purposes of patent procedure, the International Convention for the Protection of Performers, the Protocol relating to the Madrid Agreement concerning the international registration of marks, and others. On to the next question. Which government agency would you be dealing with most as an IP lawyer? It would be the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines, or the IPO. The IPO is the lead agency in the Philippines mandated to implement state policies on intellectual property, or IP. It was created under the IP Code and is under the Department of Trade and Industry, or the DTI. The Philippine IPO is headed by a Director General and has several bureaus, namely the Bureau of Patents, the Bureau of Trademarks, the Bureau of Legal Affairs, the Documentation, Information and Technology Transfer Bureau, the Management Information System and EDP Bureau, the Administrative, Financial, and Personal Services Bureau, and the Bureau of Copyright and other related rights. Registration of applications for trademark, patent, utility model, industrial design, and patent cooperation treaty applications are filed with the IPO. Naturally, because it is the IPO which is the lead agency tasked with implementing IP laws, then it is the agency which you will be dealing with most as an IP lawyer. So, on to the next question. What traits and qualities would be ideal for becoming an IP lawyer? So these are obviously not requirements that are set in stone. They're just ideal qualities which would make you an ideal candidate for being an IP lawyer. The first is that you're highly analytical. IP practice is super technical, guys. As in, it requires so much scrutiny, so much technical understanding, so much analysis. Imagine you're going to be filing patent applications for inventions. That alone is enough to give you an idea of how technical and how complex IP practice is. I remember that a few years back, I handled a patent application for an invention. And honestly, it was so incredibly difficult. If you guys are interested, you can go on the IPO Philippines website. You can go on there and browse the different requirements for, say for example, for filing a patent application. Sobrang technical sila. When I was filing that patent application with the IPO, I had to deal with so many technical people just because the technicalities of it were far too complex for my legal mind to understand. As in, tingnan mo pa lang yung diagrams, yung drawings, yung flowcharts, sumasakit na yung ulo ko. So because of the incredibly technical and complicated nature of IP, it would definitely be a bonus if you are highly analytical. The next ideal trait would be that you pay great attention to detail. Like I said, because it involves inventions, when you're an IP lawyer, your practice is highly specialized. You can't just look at all of these IP laws and say, hey, I'm gonna file a patent for my invention. When you're filing your application, even if you're the lawyer, even if you're not the technical person who invented it, you have to understand how it works. And that's not as simple as it sounds, believe me. Like for example, this phone. You can't just say, how does a phone work? My phone works by pressing the power button, inputting my passcode, then when I tap the touchscreen, then an application opens. It's not like that. It goes into the most minute, the most complex details, even the the technical components of how a phone operates. You have to understand that as an IP lawyer. So you see, an eye for detail would really be a bonus. Another ideal trait is that if you come from a math or science background, or even if you don't come from that background, if you're inclined or if you're interested in math and science. In fact, the only intellectual property lawyer in my UP Law batch had molecular biology as her undergraduate course. So you see, IP does involve math. It involves science. So if you're good at that, or if you're at least interested in that, then IP law could be the practice for you. The next ideal trait would obviously be that you're good with technical matters. A lot of the time, kasi based on my personal experience, whenever lawyers encounter technical matters, for example, some technical details in a contract, ibabato nila agad yun sa technical people. Lawyers will usually send it to the technical team and say, legal kami, we don't handle technical matters. We handle legal matters only. But when you're an IP lawyer, you cannot do that precisely because IP is concerned with those technical matters. IP is a technical matter. So if that is one of your strengths, then you would be the minority because really, lawyers don't like technical matters and I am one of them. Consider IP law. The next ideal trait would be that you're good with understanding and visualizing abstract concepts. This ties in with what I was saying earlier about the nature of IP law. It's incredibly specialized and technical, so if you can easily understand concepts or things, even without having like a model, like a physical model of that thing in front of you, then that would be ideal for IP practice. The next ideal trait would be that you are patient, because the nature of IP work really requires a lot of study. It involves spending so many hours hunched over your desk trying to understand these diagrams, flowcharts, schematics, matrices, drawings. And even if you're good at math and science, that doesn't mean that you're going to get it just like that. It involves dealing with a lot of technical people who will help you try to understand the technicalities of the patent or the utility model, etc. It requires a lot of study, a lot of background work, a lot of research. So for that, you have to be patient. The next ideal quality is that you don't hate litigation. Because when you're an IP lawyer, you will still be doing litigation. You will still be appearing before a government agency with quasi-judicial powers. It's still part of your job description to argue before a judge. Your IP case could even go up to the Supreme Court. So if you hate litigation, if you hate the idea of going to court, if you know that it's not for you, then IP law is probably not for you. The next ideal quality is that you don't mind a lot of desk work. If you're the type of lawyer who wants to be chasing bad guys, who wants to be putting criminals behind bars, who wants to be appearing in court on a daily basis and saying, "Objection, Your Honor!" In short, if you like a lot of action in your legal practice, then IP law would probably not be the practice for you, simply because in IP law, your practice would really revolve around IP. Those IP that I earlier mentioned. So I have a couple of tips for becoming an IP lawyer. The first is that you should definitely take the elective intellectual property or IP in law school. I myself took it when I was a senior in law school, and based on that, I decided that it was not the practice for me. My second tip is after you become a lawyer, then go to a medium or large law firm with a separate IP department. Or you can go to a smaller law firm which specializes in IP. I've mentioned this before, usually medium or large law firms are departmentalized. This simply means that different law specializations have different departments in the firm. So there would be a separate IP department and you could go there. You could definitely validly say, I only want to be doing IP work, put me in the IP department. There are also some smaller firms who are known for IP, For example, Esguerra and Blanco. You could choose to go there. But I think that the problem with going to some smaller firms is that they're not departmentalized. So even if you will be handling IP work, then you could still be given other work like litigation work, corporate work, regulatory work, etc. You wouldn't be able to say, oh, don't give me that, I just want IP work. Okay, my last tip if you're considering becoming an IP lawyer is to read up on the IP code and see if it interests you. Just go on the internet, it's free. Type nyo yung Intellectual Property Code of the Philippines and just go through it. Maybe you like what you see. Or you can go to a law library and read up on the books of Vicente B. Amador. IP law is actually my dad's specialization. That's actually his passion. I'll talk more about that in another video. So yeah guys, that is it. I hope you learned a little bit about what being an intellectual property lawyer is really like. I hope that you liked this episode and are looking forward to more of my series on different law specializations. Let me know what kind of lawyer you guys would like to learn about next. If you have any suggested topics of videos that you would like me to do, please leave them in the comment box down below. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up. Please also don't forget to subscribe to my channel and to hit the notification bell below if you guys would like to be notified of my future videos. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and see you in my next video. Stay safe. Bye!